Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Pete Haviland here in the cold part of Texas right now.
And tonight we have Marie D. Jones, and we finally get to talk to her. We've had a few glitches over the last few months, so please say hello, Marie.
Hi there. I'm here.
You're here, finally.
I'm so happy we finally get to talk to you, Marie.
Yeah. I've had, we've had these.
Let's hope.
Yeah, definitely. No one really knows what will ever happen when technology gets involved. No, I have not been drinking. Technology. I'm a guy. Come on, we can't say anything right. Anyway, before we get started, I just sort of have a PSA to put out there. In regards to Saturday and Halloween, just that, now that it's upon us, we just kind of wanted to, say a few words about safety. So, we want to make sure that the kids, if they're allowed to go out and trick or treat, if they're safe. Please give them flashlights if it's dark, and make sure that the younger ones have adult supervision, especially with everything going on in the United States right now. Things are getting a little bit creepy and weird on their own. So we just want to make sure that everybody stays safe if they go out and trick or treat on Halloween. And one more thing on that note. Try not to dress your kids in the same outfits, especially like witch type outfits, because if you're trying to keep an eye on them, there's absolutely no way to tell which witch is which. So we have to make sure that we don't do that.
You did it, didn't you? Oh no!
What did I do?
You're starting early. Okay, which is which?
Well, yeah, because if you dress them the same, you wouldn't know which witch is which. So
feel free to lob popcorn at him and stuff when he does stuff like that.
Oh yes, please.
I think that was pretty cool.
Pete usually lobs rocks at me. So
yeah, we got a sharp stick, but right now Angie's not with us. She'll be here a little later, and I'm sure she's probably sharpening up the stick. So if he starts with his dad jokes again, we'll give him a sharp prod with it.
Well, you do know that there is a reason I did this at the beginning, knowing full well Angie wasn't here. So,
I know you could get away with one. I get it. I do. I really do.
Don't worry. I don't have 2 or 3 like I did last week. Maybe.
No, you probably have.
Although
4 or
you'll
5,
never know, will you?
Yeah.
I like keeping you guessing. What can I say, Pete?
Yeah, I know.
I was serious about the Halloween safety, though. I really want to make sure everybody does stay safe out there.
And I think you look really, really good in your witch costume.
Well, yeah, considering it's basically just all fishnet,
mm-hmm.
and that includes the torso part as well.
Last year, you told me you wore it. You came home with an extra $100. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but I really don't want to know.
Well, yeah, here's the problem though. It was all in ones.
I'm sure that quarters.
I have pictures if you'd like to see them.
I don't.
Are you sure?
The quarters, they didn't make it rain. They made it hail on you, right?
No comment.
I know. I'll have a jab with the stick later too, probably.
All right. So Marie, on that note, maybe we should get this going before things get a little bit.
I don't know if I can compete with this hilarity. I'm not sure I could top this. I don't know. I don't know any jokes, at least that my brain can remember. So
Oh,
you
do what
guys
I
just
do.
Fire them off. Go for it.
Do what I do. I just go on to all of the different children's sites and come up with mine. So
Enough jokes. Those are always good.
oh, don't get me started. Just don't get me started. All right, so to get
He's
this
only
going,
been banned from about 4 of the children's sites now. I'm so proud of him. It's down from
Yeah.
about 8.
Well, true,
And you have the best jokes.
and actually, our producer has only banned me from the show. What, Pete? I think 3 times now so far. So that's not bad.
3 times, and you keep getting back in.
Well,
the problem is they let you back in. Huh?
Well, you know,
Yes.
I keep promising her that I won't do it again. But I lie. No, I would never do that. I've never lied in my life, ever.
You need a good sense of humor in this day and age, so I think it's important to keep laughing.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
let's get this started. You've written a number of books on a whole lot of diverse subjects. Can you tell us how you decide what to write and when to write it?
Yeah, so it's either one of 2 things. Either I come up with the idea or something that I want to write, and I pitch it to my various publishers, or I have my agent Lisa pitch it and see if someone agrees with me that it's an interesting subject. But I would say that lately, most of the books that I've been doing have been the publisher. I'm working with mainly with Visible Ink Press right now. They're keeping me really busy. And so the publisher will come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to maybe do a book on this. Would that interest you? And I might either say, yeah, I love that, or, not quite up my alley. Or we'll just kind of email back and forth. He'll say, Marie, would you got any ideas for your next book or 2? And I recently begged him to let me write a UFO book because it's been quite a while since I'd written one. And
Awesome.
Nick Redford writes a lot of books for him, so he tends to do all the UFO stuff. And I was getting kind of, I'm doing these heavy duty books. I've just finished one on propaganda and disinformation and media manipulation, and I'm working right now on one on toxins in our food and water and air and toxic products, blah, blah, blah. So those are like really super serious.
I was going to say that one might end up being a very thick one to boot with everything going on nowadays.
Oh, yeah, they both are. And so I just really wanted to get back to my UFO roots because that's kind of how I got involved in the paranormal. And so we had put out a book called Celebrity Ghosts and Notorious Hauntings, which is really doing successfully. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to do a UFO version? Like famous, well-known people that have had UFO encounters or UFO sightings. And so that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, so it's either my idea that I kind of see if anybody's interested, or they'll come to me with a couple of ideas and I can kind of pick and choose.
Now, do you write for different publishers, or do you have one, or do you have like one main publisher you write for, or do you have a few different ones?
So I was writing for New Page Books pretty much nonstop. They got bought out by Red Wheel Weiser, and I did a revision of 1111, the time crunch phenomenon, for them. And I haven't done anything since. I hope to. But I started working with Visible Ink Press, and it just kind of snowballed. I literally have been doing 2 books a year with them. And I have 2 books set for next year. I'm going to do a natural health manual, alternative health manual, and then the UFO book. So it's just been kind of nonstop, where I don't really have, with all the other stuff that I do, I don't really have time to take on anything else.
Right.
Although
gotcha.
I do a lot of other, types of writing. I write screenplays. I I write for a freelance company where I do a lot of editing, a lot of writing. We're actually getting ready to do a book. So I was going to try to take 3 months off. I was going to try to take November, December, January off, go on hiatus and clear my brain, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
Yeah,
I was going to.
What happens when you want to do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're anything like
my brain
me,
hurts.
Yeah.
even when I'm on vacation, I will look at something and I will think to myself, "Ooh, I should write about that." And then 10 minutes later, I'm running through my head figuring out how to write about it. So.
Well, the plan was to just, like, I'm going to turn my next nonfiction book in soon. The plan was to have 3 months to work on a couple of novels that I had set aside and never finished. But I have a feeling that's going to get a little screwy. I'm still hoping that'll happen. I'm not going to start my natural health manual till late January. So I might actually be able to pull it off. And I can't really do a lot on social media right now because I've been locked out of all my Facebook accounts.
What did you do?
You know what? Honestly,
Marie?
I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't know if I did get hacked in one of my email accounts. And I know somebody keeps trying to get into my LinkedIn account and go for it. I mean, I don't do much on there anyway. But Facebook doesn't have a phone number. There's no customer service to speak of. So,
right.
But I did find out from a couple of people that they had the same thing happen.
I hate those internet companies that you can never talk to anybody and survive.
No, it's awful, and I'm really
it's always
really
email or chat.
Well, here's what keeps happening. I keep emailing them, telling them what the problem is, and then they email me back and say, "Well, log into your account and do this." It's like, you moron! Do you not get that I can't get into? Really?
That's why I'm calling
really?
you.
You gotta love those bots.
So you know what? It's a bummer. I mean, I spent years, making friendships and getting readers and all that, and I have different pages, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get them back. So I figure I'll give it a month, and then if I'm not able to get back on, I'll just try a new account. Somebody told me it was like, maybe you were spending too much time on social media, and this is a good way for you to. And I thought, well, maybe you don't have to think of it as like a blessing in disguise somehow.
Well, here's something to keep in mind. My partner, Bob Davis, he was locked out of his account for, God, I think it must have been like 4 to 6 months.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, it was like 4 to 6 months. And then all of a sudden it just came back. He had been trying all that time, and then boom, all of a sudden he tried and it was back. And he still isn't sure what happened, how he got back. Yeah. So I think Facebook just has glitches, or they like to pick on people.
Well, I had heard that they've incorporated these bots that literally are supposed to go through and block certain language, whatever, but that they've just been taking down accounts that, like one of my friends is a business coach, a life coach, and hers got taken down the same exact way. But there's no rhyme or reason. But it just, kind of shows you how overly dependent we get on social media. And I'm not a big fan of social media, but I do need to be on there to tell people what I'm up to, what books I have. And I like to also just post funny, goofy stuff to make people laugh, because there's too much seriousness and anger and stuff going on. But so I don't miss that.
No, nobody's angry out there.
Yeah,
no, nobody at all.
There's no anger out there, Marie.
I know, but it's kind of nice to not have to see it.
Yeah,
like Instagram to me is Instagram's great. It's just pictures. And it's just so much tamer. Instagram and Twitter, although Twitter is really hard. I swore I would never do any politics on Instagram or Twitter. But I will tell you one thing. I find it disconcerting when I'm not called a moron 5 or 6 times a day by being on Facebook.
Well, I do that anyway.
Well, see, now my agent,
Maybe that's
my
why.
my manager scolded me years ago and said, don't you ever post anything political on social media. You are not on here to do that. Go in groups and discuss that. You're on here because you're a writer and you
And
are trying to tell people about
yourself.
I mean, and I have friends. I mean, I like to make a lot of friendships. My goal of social media is not to upset people or piss them off. Excuse me, I hope I could say that word. But it's to engage people, and that's the pleasure of social media. I don't want to be on there arguing politics because nobody listens to you anyway. They have their opinions, you have yours, and it's a done deal. So, but I actually got yelled at. And I was like, okay, I promise. And so I do post about censorship because that's something I feel as a writer, I'm very strongly against any kind of censorship. So that could have been what tagged me, but I think it was just a giant hack.
That's quite possible. All I know, what's that, Pete?
I said it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going out there these days.
Yeah,
and so
let's face it, Facebook is doing all kinds of weird things. As soon as you figure out their new algorithms, all of a sudden they hit you with an update. You're going, wait, what? So, who knows what they're doing.
And for writers, I know it's kind of like Amazon, where originally we were allowed to promote our work openly. And then they started coming up with all these new rules. You can't do this on your personal page, and knocking people off, and it's like, come on, like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have enough money. Does he really care if I tell people I have a new book out? So it's just, as a writer, like as a person, I know I could open a new account and friend the same people again. But as a writer, it just really makes me angry because that's part of your livelihood, is being able to tell people what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
of course.
One of the things that you mentioned, Amazon, that drives me crazy is Amazon keeps sending me these little things going, go to your author page and tell them what you're doing. Tell them what events you're doing. So I go to my author page and there's no way for me to do it. And it's like,
yeah.
Why are you telling me to do something that isn't even possible anymore to do? Because I used to do it. And now you can't.
Well, that makes me mad. Because, think about it. Amazon started as a bookstore. I mean, it began as a bookseller. And, he made his billions off the back of writers. And now we do not make any money. I don't know if you guys have ever written a book, but on Amazon, people could buy your book used for $2. Why are they going to pay the full amount? And you make no money off of that. And I know there's been a lot of, but listen, I do it too. I'm guilty.
But see, here's what you have to remember, though. Like with my books, I've seen them on sale on Amazon really cheap, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really care what they sell them at because they're still having to buy them from my publisher for the wholesale price.
Yeah.
So, I'm still making money, and if they want to sell a $21 book that for $4, hey, go ahead. Because guess what? I'm still getting the money for wholesale.
Yeah, it's the individual people that put up a copy, that you don't make money off of. But I guess, you did get that initial sale the first time. So, but it's hard. It's hard being a writer.
Well, you can also look at it this way too. Even if they pick up a used copy for $2, that might open up the door that they'll buy your other books.
I hope so, or they'll
I would like to think that way,
but to somebody else. Yeah. So now that we've ranted and raved about social media and Amazon,
actually, Marie, if I could cut you off for just a minute, we've kind of gone past our first break, so we're going to go ahead.
Wow.
We're going to go ahead and take it. That's actually my fault. I usually keep a little closer time on that. But we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with Marie Jones as soon as we get back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And you are back with the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. If you have not already gone to the chat room, please go to WBHM-DB.com and join the chat room there. And if you have any questions for our guest or for your hosts, you can call in to area code 205-533-7982. So we have been talking with Marie D. Jones. We are supposed to be talking about her books, but we've been talking about her being ousted from Facebook. So maybe what we should do is get back to the subject.
The jailbird. She's a jailbird.
I know. God. Jeez. That's so sweet.
We try.
I know.
We're equal opportunity.
Yeah. See, if we don't get on you, we'll get on each other. So this way is, it's like we can save it up for ourselves later.
Yeah, I just think of you as our buffer.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
That's funny.
So, Marie, do you have your own theories to explain paranormal phenomenon, or your pet theories you've researched by others?
Yeah, I kind of do. Actually, my father was a geophysicist, and he was really into the paranormal. He was especially UFOs, and that was kind of interesting because you could get the scientist perspective. I kind of grew up, with that different perspective than most people have. So I've always been interested in how science plays into the picture. I wrote the book Science, P-S-I-E-N-C-E, because I wanted to look at whether there were any kind of scientific theories that could help explain paranormal phenomenon. And what I found was, things like quantum physics and the observer effect and parallel universes and alternate dimensions of reality, all of which I think play a role. But I think my favorite pet theory came from a book that I did with Larry Flaxman called The Grid. And the subtitle was, I think, what was it? Exploring the Hidden Infrastructure of Reality. And what we did with The Grid is we wanted to look at whether or not we human beings had something to do with how these things manifest. Is it just external phenomena that we're talking about? Is it environmental? Or does it also have something to do with human physiology? And is it possible that what's going on with us consciously, internally, whatever, aligns with what's going on in the external environment? And that's what opens the door to being able to perceive, say, a ghost or, some type of paranormal phenomenon. So that's my favorite, sort of bringing the internal, the observer, the investigator, the person who's actually engaging in all of this, with what's going on in our environment. That's my favorite book. Yeah.
You had mentioned that your dad was into UFOs. Had he ever had an experience with it?
Had he or me?
Well, both of you, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Both of you.
So my dad did a lot of classified work, but mostly it was, related to, for example, in the 70s, my dad was working on a classified program looking into whether or not China was detonating nuclear weapons in the Indian Ocean, that kind of thing. Later on, he worked for DARPA for a while doing climate, weather engineering kind of stuff. But he was always, since I was really small, into UFOs. And so I don't think he's ever told me, he passed away a few years ago, that he ever had an experience. I know he went out to Area 51 several times. He lived in Nevada, in northern Las Vegas, so he would go out there. And I don't think he did. Now, when I was younger, I had a couple of weird, I thought were dreams, but looking back, I still remember them with such clarity that perhaps they weren't. But I've never had, an in-your-face something landing on the backyard lawn or, a little gray thing waving at me through the window. I've never had anything direct as an adult, but I've had some weird stuff happen. I was on a radio show once, not yours, and there were two women hosts, and we were talking about this stuff, and I said, well, I was driving on this particular freeway in Los Angeles, and I literally lost 2 hours of time.
Wow.
And somehow I ended up going north to Sacramento, and I was going to see Carl Sagan at the Planetary Society. This was a long time ago. And the whole evening, everything had gone wrong that could go wrong. And I really should never have gotten in the car, but it was terrifying. I literally blacked out for 2 hours, didn't hit anybody, This was before when those gigantic cell phones had just come on the market. So I was able to call my husband at the time, and he said, just come home. You don't need to go see Carl Sagan. Just get your butt home. And I just passed it off to, zoning out. It was just a weird experience. So years and years later, I would say about 2 years ago, I'm on a radio show, and I'm telling that story, and one of the female hosts says, what freeway were you on? Where exactly? And I told her, and she goes, that place is notorious for UFO abductions.
Okay, I have.
You're kidding.
as since I live in the LA area, I have to know which roadway you're talking about.
So Carl Sagan was speaking at JPL in Pasadena.
Okay.
I lived in North Hollywood, so I was on the 101, and I got onto the 134,
Gotcha.
and somehow ended up way north on the 2. The 2 freeway, which goes north, I guess, heading to Sacramento.
Well, yeah,
Totally.
From where you were, the 2 actually heads right into the mountains.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I had driven that route a million times. I mean, I lived in LA for 15 years. I knew exactly where to go. I've been on the 101. I've been on the 134. And so I said, are you kidding me? And they both said, yes, a lot of people in that general area have experienced a lot of abductions, a lot of
Have you
missing
ever
time.
Have you ever had any regressions done to find out what the missing time was?
That's what they challenged me to do. And they said if I ever did, they wanted me to go back on the show and talk about it. But here's the thing. I don't feel like anything happened. I feel kind of like I would have a clue. I would know. Now, maybe I don't want to know. I almost thought about, well, if I have a regression and nothing happened, I might be disappointed. Like, oh, bummer. But if I find out something did happen, then that totally changes your life. So no, I haven't. It's been kind of in the back of my mind ever since then. And when it happened, it did kind of freak me out. Of course, I knew about missing time, but I just thought, oh, I must have been tired. And I was just so grateful that I didn't kill anybody. That's sort of that automatic part of your brain just takes over, which I think is fascinating in and of itself. And then I had another experience actually much earlier when I was a teenager where I was driving home from my boyfriend's house late at night. And the car started shaking and the doors opened and there was a bright light. And I kind of felt like maybe the car was coming off the ground a little bit, and then it sort of jolted back down. Mm-hmm. And the light went away, and I stopped screaming, closed the doors, drove home in a panic. But the funny thing is that I went back like the next day, and I realized, well, did I hit a speed bump or something in the road? And there's a street light right there. Maybe I panicked because the door was loose. You know what I mean? It's like you sort of automatically want to justify or find a rational reason for what happened. But those experiences, I remember every detail. So things like that. When I was little, I was about 5 years old maybe, and I was playing in our driveway. I lived in New York. We had a driveway that was really long and sort of sloped downward. The garage door was open, and the very back of the garage door was a window. And I remember a little skeleton, a skull, was looking through the window at me. And I screamed and ran across the street to the neighbors. Now, all my life I said I had this weird dream, that the skull. And later on, of course, I saw a picture of a gray, and it was like, oh my God, that's what was looking at me. But I had assumed that I had a dream. And as an adult now, I second guess. Did I actually see something? Why do I remember that experience so vividly? So that's the long, drawn-out answer to your question. It's where you have these little tantalizing things that happen that you don't quite know, but something does feel a little bit off.
Just kind of a warning. I know Pete does hypnosis and things like that. If he ever offers to do your, regression, if I were you, I would be very leery of allowing him to do that.
Hey, I'm professional.
I know, but I'm just saying. No, he wouldn't do that. But I'm just saying that, like in a year or two after he does it, you'll be on stage, giving a lecture or something, and people will be staring at you because you'll probably be standing on one arm.
Oh yeah, of course. I have to give her a trigger word.
With teacups spinning on your raised feet. So just something to be careful
Oh
of it.
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'll let all of your friends know what the trigger word is, so this way they can have fun.
Yeah, really. So they could do it. I'll be like the the life of the party.
Actually,
I don't have
what's a little fun between
to
friends?
do it. I know. And as long as I'm fully clothed, that's okay. I could do some.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I would never. Yeah. Yeah, I would never do that.
But I do know that Pete does sell trigger words, so just be careful.
Is that a good thing to get in terms of?
Well, I don't know. For $5, I can give you the trigger word for Brian, so you could. So.
Oh, don't you dare! I'm outside right now.
Yeah, I could use a good side hustle. So that sounds interesting.
Sure, we'll talk afterwards. Not a problem.
Hey, how do you think I ended up with $100 bills that we were talking about last Halloween?
Well,
Pete's trigger word
could have had something to do with that.
But
yeah, I mean, I just all my life I've had close calls or weird things that I could never, they were not direct. They were always indirect experiences.
Well,
they were just weird enough.
Well, that skull that you saw when you were younger, I mean, has it ever come up again in your adult life that you've seen something like that? You thought it was a dream?
Not. It has in dreams. I mean, I've dreamed a lot over the years. I've always had recurring dreams that involved, aliens or seeing a UFO or having my son when he's little and seeing something in the sky and being really scared, like, oh, we need to get inside. Mm-hmm. But nothing when I'm awake, I guess you could say.
Okay.
At least I think I'm aware of.
Okay.
All right. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I believe you have 2 new books. Actually, one of them may have already come out, The New Witch. Did that one come out already?
Yeah, that one came out on October 1st.
Okay, and then you have another one that either came out last May or this coming May, Earth Magic.
Earth Magic came out in the summer, yeah. And they're kind of sister books. Yeah, they kind of go together.
Yeah, so I was wondering. I was kind of wondering if that's one of the reasons why I'm very careful on some things that I say, because I don't. People don't need to know that Miss Claire. Never mind. Thank God for hair color. Anyway, I was wondering if you could tell us. Mr.
Clune, are you talking Freudian again?
No, never.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
Not gonna do it at this juncture.
All right. Okay.
So, can you tell us a little bit about those books?
Yeah, these are books that my publisher asked me to write, and I knew a lot about the subject matter from research over the years, and I have a lot of friends that are witches, Wiccans, pagans, and it was a real sort of nice, fun way to get away from the more research-intensive books. And also we had been talking about the fact that people spend an awful lot of time out of nature. We're indoors all the time, and we've lost that connection that we have to the earth and to the forces of nature, and how there is this reemergence of earth traditions, because I think people feel that pull, especially now we're all locked down with the virus and people are not going outside as much. They're not going hiking as much or whatever, camping, spending time out in nature. So it was definitely a way for me to immerse myself in earth traditions. And when I was younger, I was a practicing witch. Now I'm just sort of a whatever, this, that, and the other thing, and writer, everything. But it was kind of a really fun way to revisit the subject matter, present it in a way where, there's been a lot of stereotypes about what witches are, Wiccans and pagans, setting the record straight, talking about the history. But my favorite part for Earth Magic especially, was I wanted to learn about herbs and I'm really concerned with my health, and I don't like taking pharmaceuticals. In fact, I hate them, especially after writing this book on toxins. And it just absolutely blew my mind doing the research into how nature has something to heal every ailment, every illness, every disease. And so that was a really fun thing for me, was to learn about different herbs. And I also love symbolism. So, a lot of witches work with candles and gems and different correspondences. Now with New Witch, that took it in a whole different direction, because I wanted to know how technology and social media had affected or influenced these ancient traditions. And so that was real fun to do too. I have a lot of connections that I met on Instagram or Facebook, and they're sharing how to make a candle or how to set up your altar, what gemstones go with what excuse me, birth sign or whatever. Because I thought, well, that's really weird that, technology is so cutting edge and modern and it has nothing to do with nature. And yet there are people who have found a way to merge the two and make it work so that you could reach a whole new generation of people and communicate in a whole new way. So those are really fun to do. And that led into my publisher and I talking about doing just a full-on comprehensive natural health manual. I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of natural and alternative health people are getting censored, blocked, deplatformed. Anybody that goes against the big pharma narrative is being shut down.
Oh yeah, they love their monopoly.
Yeah, so that's why after I wrote these two books, I was really, really excited about, I'd like to take this further. I want to write a book on natural health and natural alternatives and how you find them, and not just for people, but for pets. There's a lot of information that I found on, toxicity in pets. And so I'm hoping by the time that book comes out, which should be, I think, the end of next year, that some of this censorship has ended. It's just insane. People need to know. They need to know that, they're being poisoned from pharmaceuticals, and there are alternatives. And there's, I used to hate tea. Oh, I hated tea. I'm such a coffee person.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I started drinking tea. There's all these different teas that do all these different things for your body. And so now it's like, oh my God, I'm a tea drinker now?
Well,
that's what led to those two.
For me, I will never give up my coffee, especially in the mornings. But because I don't really like drinking soda and things like that, I end up drinking a lot of iced tea. And I've made some iced tea with all kinds of different teas. Now, some of them do not work well iced. Others are really good. Okay, so we have to take another break, but when we come back, we will continue. I have a few other questions regarding those two books. So please stay with us, and we will be right back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
And welcome back to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. If you have not joined the chat room, please do at WBHM-DB.com. And if you would like to call in with questions for the host or our guest, you can call in to area code 205-533-7982. So we have been talking with Marie Jones, and we just started talking about your two books, Earth Magic and The New Witch. And you had mentioned that those two books were kind of like sister books. What's the difference between Earth Magic and, let's say, what a Wiccan would practice, if there is any difference?
Well, there is. I mean, they're completely different books that I like to call them sister books just because I think, Earth Magic focuses more on general Earth traditions and the magic that we've lost and reconnecting with that. New Witch is more about modern, the modernization, using social networking and technology to your advantage and how you can communicate with more people. But they do have some overlap. I mean, they both get into a little bit the history of witchcraft. They both get into spell casting and how similar it is to working with the law of attraction. And in fact, it's the exact same thing, but with spell casting, you use a lot of symbolic imagery. Mm-hmm. And they, there's some overlap with things like herbs, candle magic, and gems and minerals. But Earth Magic, I think, is more focused on connecting to nature and how that is a lost art and science. And New Witch is more on the modern witchcraft of today, the modern Wicca of today, and how we've embraced technology. So I call them sister books, but you could buy one and it'd be perfectly comprehensive, I think, for someone. Most of the people that, don't already practice, but there's a lot of stuff that I found that I thought, well, anybody could be interested. And you don't even have to be a witch. I think that there's so much that benefits everyone with getting back to nature, learning how to be in nature, learning how to work with nature, but also, like I said, learning how to identify herbs and what their medicinal properties are. So there's a little bit, there's divination systems that I get into, tarot and astrology and numerology. Every time I write a book, I try to cram as much stuff in it as I possibly can.
Right.
And the good thing about these two books, they're the first books I've ever done, excuse me, that are in 4-color. They're full color. They're gorgeous. And
it's always nice when they come out in color, huh?
Well, the books that I've done in the past were always black and white because, they're easier, they're cheaper to produce that way, to print them out and all that. So we had this opportunity to do Earth Magic in full color because it makes a really great kind of gift book. And also we had airports and gift shops that were interested in it, but only if it was full color.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool because, those are wonderful markets. And then we decided to do the same thing with New Witch. Now, I did write another book on, mindfulness and meditation that's in full color, and it's for a company that I've done work for probably about 15 years, called Publications International. But those books are different. Those books are sold like at Hallmark shops or Walmart, and I don't know that they're in Barnes and Nobles or Amazon. I think they're on Amazon, but it was just, it was nice to get my author box and open them and go, ooh, they're so pretty. I don't think my UFO book is going to be in color, but that's okay. I can't wait to read it.
I wanted to ask you, Marie, when you were asked to do these two books, did you find that you identified with anything in these books personally?
Absolutely. I grew up in a little house in New York, north of the city, and I spent 99.9% of my time outside, alone, in nature. I was a little, lone wolf out there chasing butterflies, identifying trees and birds, and I loved being out in nature, and I've always been aware of the power of that connection that we have. And then again, my mom was always real artistic and spiritual. My father, of course, was a scientist. And so growing up with a scientific appreciation of nature just sort of added to it. And then, like a lot of other people, I began working with the law of attraction. And I realized, this is spellcasting. That's all this is. It's the same thing. A little bit different bells and whistles. I am not necessarily a witch by tradition because I don't follow rules. This is going to sound weird. I don't like to follow rules.
Okay.
It's just me. So I don't, do rituals or I believe in a divine feminine and a divine masculine. I do believe in that. So I'm I used to be a witch when I was younger, and I kind of identify myself now as a sort of a kitchen witch. A kitchen witch is someone who uses like practical magic. It becomes a part of your everyday life.
Okay.
And it's just part of who you are. Like my grandmother came over here from Italy, and she worked with herbs, and they called them kitchen witches, and they had no idea at the time what they were being called, but that's what they were. So
Marie, we have a question in the chat room that wants to know if you do divination and do you use magic for things you want for yourself?
Please excuse me, my voice has been failing. I don't do any divination. I used to, years ago in my 20s, I learned how to read tarot, and I haven't done it in so long. I do work with spell magic, but I consider it, like I said, it's the exact same thing as setting goals, writing them down, speaking them into existence. It is the law of attraction. I love symbols. I love seashells and sea glass and things like that. So I have a lot of that I use if I need some kind of symbolic connection. But divination, I just never had a gift for it. I'm extremely intuitive. In fact, I can often guess things that are going to happen long before they happen. But to me, that's being a writer. We're very observant. We observe everything. So I think we see things that other people miss. But I have never learned a divination system, and I do not have the gifts of, psychic abilities or astrology or numerology. I just don't. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't know why.
How'd your tarot work? Were you fairly accurate when you were doing the tarot? I have a reason for asking that, by the way.
So I was really young. I'm in my 50s now. I was in my 20s then, and I was really into the occult. I love the occult studies. I love the idea that people put hidden messages about truth or reality in things like cards or books or whatever, paintings. And I remember I had a Rider-Waite deck, and I had learned what all the cards meant and the symbolism behind it. And a lot of it is very intuitive. It's also very interpretive. You're kind of putting your personal spin on it. So I remember I would do readings just for myself because I was too chicken to do them for other people. And I just remember that there were certain images on certain cards that I would really connect with. I felt like there was some kind of power or force coming from those symbols. But I have to be honest, then I just got involved in other things in life, and I never really followed through with that. I don't feel like I really had enough of a gift to keep doing it, especially reading for other people. I kind of feel like I'm too much of an empath to do readings for other people because my empathic nature would always kind of
get in the way.
Influence it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The
I
reason
see how that would happen.
Yeah, the reason I was asking you about that is years and years ago, I played around with the tarot cards, and the people that I was reading the cards for would always sit there and go, "Wow, I can't believe you picked up on that." But then I also have a little bit less psychic ability than my tennis shoe, so I always thought it was a little bit odd that, I could read and sense the tarot cards, but nothing else. So that's why I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, I think people have different attraction to different types of symbolism. And I just loved the imagery because I felt like there were hidden symbols and messages and hidden knowledge in there, and I wanted to know what it was. But then I think I was so young where I didn't quite trust my interpretations of it. And I never really, I know a lot of women that are psychic mediums or they read tarot or they do this or that, and they're very confident in their ability. And that was not me.
Well,
the only thing I've ever done with tarot is I tried playing poker with them, and 3 people passed out.
Yeah, there you go. What's this card?
But,
they get the death card.
Yeah, there's only
the death card.
Yeah. The strange thing with those 3 people who passed out, for some odd reason, even to this day, every time they hear certain words, they start dancing and doing weird things. We're not sure what's going on with it, but
here we go again.
It's one of those things. So a lot of people won't necessarily see herbalism and witchcraft as the same art. Can you kind of give us an idea of how those two intersect?
Well, absolutely, because historically, women that were labeled witches were kind of like shamans. They were women who knew which herbs they could give a neighbor if the neighbor had a cold or a headache, and they were healers. And, at the time of the witch burnings and the witch trials, the church did not want humans, especially women, to have that ability. They wanted, to kind of be the middleman, I guess you could say. So women became stigmatized as witches when really all they were doing was healing. If you had a broken heart, you could go to the neighborhood, wise woman, and she would probably talk to you and counsel you, and maybe she would give you a nice tea that would calm you down, or she would do a spell that you would, be free of the obsession of whatever of the person. And the power of suggestion could have played into the fact that it worked for a lot of people. And it just got a real evil connotation when it was anything but. Now, thinking about my ancestors, who most of them came from Italy, and Strega is Italian witchcraft, and it's very much focused on the use of herbs and plants and making infusions and concoctions and knowing which herbs you could mix together to heal someone of, the goiter or whatever, or to heal a broken heart. So that's where the connection is. If you are someone who worships and reveres nature, you're going to learn what the gifts of nature are. And most of the gifts come to us in the form of plants and herbs with healing properties that are absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I have high blood pressure, and I got put on a ton of pharmaceuticals that almost killed me. And there are teas. There's hawthorn. There's, oh gosh, I just completely forgot the red one. All right, there's 3 or 4 different teas that I now drink that lower blood pressure. And I know they do because I have a cuff, so I can measure or monitor it.
Marie?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to have to take a quick break. Actually, we're going to be coming up on our Weird World news section. But before we get into that, just want to say that you're listening to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. Now, Pete, would you like to do the honors?
Ladies and gentlemen, coming in on her white steed with her flowing blonde hair, Angie Mole and the Weird World news.
Okay, Pete, my hair is red now.
I was kind of wondering where that blonde was coming from, because, I was looking at the picture going, Pete, it's red.
I know.
When Pete met me, I had blonde hair, and I had blonde hair for probably a good 10 years after we became friends. And then I dyed it red and then went back to blonde, and now it's red again. So you can't blame the guy for being
I'm actually waiting for plaid.
What?
I'm actually waiting for plaid.
Oh. Yeah, I don't look good with black in my hair.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll okay.
Thank you for the introduction.
You're quite well.
I am not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to making people mad at me about picking on people today. So,
is California involved again?
I actually left.
All hate mail goes to Angie Mole, care of this radio station.
Yes.
Make sure you spell the name right. It's on the graphic. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So a man and a woman were killed during a drag race in Las Vegas. A minivan was driven by a man named Rodrigo Cruz, and he was racing another vehicle. A gentleman who has still been unidentified, but he is 22, was hanging out of the passenger side window. As they sped down the road, the man hanging out of the window hit a woman who was cycling with his body, killing her. He then fell out of the speeding minivan and skidded along the roadway 150 feet before slamming into a utility pole.
Ow.
Both the man and the woman were pronounced dead at the scene. The driver initially fled the scene and could face murder charges in connection with the deaths.
As well he should. Wow.
Is there a bright side?
The guy who was hanging out the window is dead?
Okay. All right. That's probably the bright side.
Yeah. Does it say where that happened by any chance? Where in Las Vegas?
Oh, it was Hollywood, and it was an intersection that started with an S.
Okay. I was just wondering if it was anywhere near Tropicana and Koval, because I was going to say that would give Tupac somebody to hang out with.
That's awesome.
Sorry,
Tupac wouldn't have any
the stick, right?
You're gonna want it for me later. I came up with some good ones.
She's learning. I love it. She's learning.
I am learning the ways. A woman in New Hampshire almost got away with fraudulently dismissing charges that had been brought against her after impersonating a county prosecutor. She filed paperwork while pretending to be the Hillsborough County prosecutor, stating that her charges for stalking and drug possession were to be dismissed. She did it several times and used the county's electronic filing system to file the fake documents. Now, I'm also going to say that the article, I read more than one about this situation, and one of them kind of listed like her rap sheet, and who buddy is she a special one? She would have gotten away with it, except
if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
Yeah. Except the woman was to face a competency evaluation, and the forensic examiner began questioning whether that eval was to continue since the charges appeared to have been dismissed. So he started making some phone calls. That's when county prosecutors began poking around and realized the real prosecutor didn't recommend for any of the charges to be dropped. So then they looked into her previous cases, and she had also filed fraudulent paperwork posing as a judge who supposedly dismissed a requirement for her to pay court costs in another case. And she also did it for a child custody case.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So
that's just wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, that's a special one.
What's crazy is that she got away with it all of those other times.
Yeah.
And it never, no one ever said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Or nobody, well, I mean, I can understand, their job descriptions are very compartmentalized, and there are a lot of different moving pieces when it comes to the justice system. So they don't check each other. But either way, I just think it's sad and kind of pathetic, but also very funny that she managed to do it several times before.
So what exactly happened to her?
Nothing yet.
Wow.
But
she's on the Supreme Court now.
Yeah. Oh, wait, did this happen out in California? Because that would explain the Ninth Circus Court.
New Hampshire, and I actually get the Ninth Circus joke reference. That's funny. So Costco is another retailer among many who have listened to PETA when it comes to animal labor and have dropped a popular coconut milk brand because of it. And if y'all are not familiar, PETA is the animal rights organization. And
they like to go out, especially in Texas, and kill cows.
Well,
anyway,
not that I've heard.
Oh no, it's been.
It wouldn't surprise me.
We probably
they're the same. They're the same folks, though. They got the animals taken off the animal cookie thing, right?
Probably.
Okay.
They're also the ones that destroyed SeaWorld.
SeaWorld destroyed itself.
Yeah, I can see that too.
So this gets great. Okay, PETA claims that coconut farms in Thailand use the labor of monkeys to harvest the coconuts, and called for major American retailers to end the support of suppliers reported to exploit animals.
Okay.
So these monkeys, supposedly, they work, regular manual labor jobs, and supposedly they're chained. And then at the end of the day, they go back into cages.
That's kind of horrible, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's true, I would actually agree with PETA on this one.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Since foreign countries are known for their wonderful treatment and fair wages given to human employees, PETA is insisting that these Thai companies switch to all human labor for picking coconuts and cease using the monkeys.
When putting chains on the people and putting them back in cages after they're done?
I mean, isn't that standard practice in some places?
I'm retiring from a place never mind.
One of the major Thai coconut suppliers audited 64 random farms out of the 817 and declared that not a single one was using monkey labor. Since I'm bad at math and I had to use a calculator, I will help y'all out and save you the time and mention that the number of farms audited equates to 7.8% of all the coconut farms. So I'm sure that that's a representative sample.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a representative sample.
However, there is no word yet on when the PETA people plan to demand retailers sell only human milk since cows can't consent.
Where's that stick at? Where's that stick at, Brian?
I think it's still wrapped around my neck.
Okay.
Be happy I left out the ground meat joke, okay?
I'm extremely happy about that.
You never leave out jokes, ground meat or otherwise.
No.
No.
Like I said, you are learning, my young Padawan.
I guess that.
No.
We already know the Australian. Oh God. We already know the Australian outback is a wild and crazy, brutal place with some of the most frightening and hardcore animals on the planet. But even biologists shivered when they were shown an image of a cow taken by a motorist. While driving on Sandover Highway, about 300 kilometers from Lake Nash Station, Andrew Gertz snapped a picture of a cow munching on a sand python that appears to be about 3 feet long, head first.
The cow was eating a snake?
Yes, sir.
I thought they were herbivores.
Scientists say that cows will occasionally chew on hides or bones or even dead kangaroos to get the trace minerals sometimes that they're missing from their diet in the extreme outback climate, but they've never seen them eat a snake.
I have never seen them eat a snake.
Gertz snapped several photos in series, and the last one shows the cow dropping the snake on the ground as it moved along out of the way of Gertz's vehicle.
Did you really have to say moved? Yes, she's learning. I love it. You make me so happy, Angie.
Oh, good. Scientists stated that it's possible the cow disturbed the snake while grazing. The snake latched onto the cow's tongue. The cow chewed it a bit, and it fell off after being mangled. But I don't even have a good joke for that situation because it's so utterly ridiculous.
Oh,
I'm so proud.
And that is Nicole.
I'm going to be in tears.
Oh, he's a proud papa.
Yes,
oh, my God.
I am.
Well, guys, that is all I got for y'all tonight. I want to thank you for listening to the Full Spectrum Project's Weird World News on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. And with that, let's get back to Brian and Pete.
Thank you, Angie.
Angie.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy. You have no idea. It's
we really need to give her a raise.
I know we should. She's doing so well.
I know.
Just so you know, that it kind of brought something to mind. Did you guys hear that the guy who invented the treadmill passed away?
Oh boy!
I'm scared to ask.
No, seriously.
Hold on. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
No.
What's the punchline?
Well, no, it's just it came across. I saw.
It's coming, Marie.
I saw his bio, right? His I'm sorry, not his bio, his obituary, and they were talking about how even though he invented the treadmill, his life just didn't go that well, and no matter how hard he tried, he just never went anywhere.
What?
I would understand if you wanted to leave now, Marie.
Yeah, I have a train to catch.
Damn, I gotta go too.
Jeez, look at the time.
You know, the guy passes away, and this is how you guys react. Oh my gosh! Wow.
If he really did pass away, that's a great loss. As many of us have purchased expensive treadmills, used them a couple of times, and then put them in the corner.
Yeah, they're great for holding jackets. Yeah,
they definitely are good.
They actually really are. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pete,
you haven't lived until you see a Great Dane on a treadmill.
Oh
my
my
gosh.
God! You got to get video of that.
Yeah, I will. He's the only one who uses it in the house, by the way. He
Yeah,
even knows how to turn it on. Yeah, it's real scary.
yeah, it is kind of.
Yeah. I'm just happy that he hadn't figured out how to open the front door yet. I'm sure that's coming.
Give him time.
No, I know.
So anyway, Pete, here's something that hasn't happened before. We have a question for you in the chat room.
Oh, no. I didn't do it. Nobody
Uh-oh.
saw it. You can't prove a thing.
Oh, she says she has pictures.
Oh, beautiful.
Actually,
Show my good side, please.
actually, April would like to know how long hypnosis and the hypnotic state and hypnotic suggestion can last.
Well, thank you for asking the question, April. It really depends on the person and their want of using the suggestion. I have had people take a suggestion for like stopping smoking, for instance. I've had clients that have been to this day, which has been maybe a little over a year, that it's helped them to quit smoking. I've had folks that were really too serious coming into it and not placing themselves in the state of wanting to help themselves, and it wear off within 2-3 weeks. So it really kind of depends on the person and their contract to themselves. Now, when I place them under hypnosis, usually the longest you could put a person under hypnosis for is about an hour to an hour and a half. And then their mind gets a little tired of listening to the suggestions and going through the process, and then they start kind of coming out of the hypnosis because of attention. So hopefully that answers your question.
All right. Hopefully that does. I don't know.
And feel free to contact me if you have any other questions. You can email me at docstrange1@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to answer anything you ask.
So you're saying it takes about an hour to an hour and a half before they get tired of listening to you? Because I'll tell you, it only takes me about 5 minutes.
Well, we have a 2-hour show, so you just lied to yourself.
Oh, no, I pulled the headphones out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, you
know. Nice try.
All right. So getting back to Marie D. Jones, we were talking about her.
We haven't forgotten about you.
We hadn't. Oh, my God. Is she still there?
I think we ran her off. I think you ran her off.
I'm here. I haven't run away yet.
You haven't?
I was actually curious to ask. I was actually going to ask a hypnosis-related question, too, if that's okay.
Okay.
Please do.
Sure.
Do you, when you hypnotize someone, are they aware of...
are they aware of themselves going on?
Aware of well, yeah. I mean, are they aware of their surroundings in a sort of semi-conscious state? I guess you would only know that if you yourself got hypnotized. Like, you can't force somebody to do something under hypnosis.
No. A person will not do anything that they wouldn't allow themselves to do. For instance, if I was to ask somebody to act like a chicken, if they would never act like a chicken, it's just going to fall on deaf ears.
Don't ever ask me to do that.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard the peanut gallery going. I just lost it. I just lost your question. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. Like, from a paranormal point of view, is that altered state of consciousness possibly similar to what people enter into when they say do a psychic reading or remote viewing?
Yes, it's a meditative state. You're basically placing somebody in a guided meditative state, but even before you do that, you discuss with them what you're going to handle, what you're going to do. You go through the process with them, and so when you place them under, you never do anything that you haven't discussed. So so this way, that contract between you and them is strong, and they don't have to worry about you doing something that they don't want to do. I've had people ask me, is there a possible way of being possessed when you're under hypnosis? No, it doesn't work that way. Number one, I'm not a big demon guy anyway, but that's a totally different thing. It's not hypnosis,
Right,
and there's no way that you could invite anything in to you because it is a subconscious thing.
I was going to say, basically, what you're doing is you're tapping into the subconscious.
Exactly.
To remember things or to relive or re-experience
and break down barriers. Break down barriers or blockages. For instance, what we were talking a little earlier about, maybe looking into the time that you were driving and you lost 2 hours of time. One of the things I would probably do with you is that I would first start off releasing any blockages that you might have about hypnosis to take the top layer off, and then I would probably hypnotize you through distraction, which is I would work with your conscious mind to bring you into a state of hypnosis, and subconsciously I would have you listen to like waves or something like that to have your brain doing two different things at one time, and that usually helps out. That's how I usually do hypnosis with folks, and I've had a lot of success. I've had a lot of success with that.
Because you kind of wonder, well, why can't I access those memories? In the waking state, what is that block that stands between my conscious mind, my conscious awareness, and the subconscious where those memories are sort of tucked away? And I often, too, wonder if people, when they're under hypnosis, are more prone to maybe seeing a ghost or having some kind of paranormal encounter because they are in a different brainwave state where maybe they're able to perceive things that they aren't when they're in a normal waking state.
Yes.
Pete, before you answer that, we need to take a station identification break.
Another break.
Another break. We have one more after this. But for now, we will be right back with Marie D. Jones, and Pete can answer any of the questions that she's asked. So we will be right back. Cue.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
And you are back with the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM, Birmingham, Alabama. If you have not joined the chat room, please do. And if you have any questions for our guest, you can call in to area code 205-533-7982. So, Pete, when we left for that short break, you were about to answer Marie's question.
Well, once you take down any of the barriers that you have, and amplify the confidence of yourself to remember, you can start to try to remember the things that you want to remember, if that makes sense. So I think that when trying to access your conscious to your subconscious, I think the barrier there is not only personal protection, but is if you are meant to know that information at that time,
right?
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it too, you could sit in a chair and have absolutely no conscious memory of something that happened when you were a child, but someone could come along and perform this, particular procedure, and all of those memories are unlocked. So I always like to try to frame questions in reference to paranormal. Are we always immersed in these things but we're not always on the same frequency where we're tuning into them either visually or, I don't know if I'm verbalizing it correctly, but if your memories can be accessed through hypnosis, Is it also possible that we sit in this chair and we don't see half the things that are around us until some type of procedure or some type of method triggers that part of the brain or gets us into that perfect brain state, brain wave?
Well, we all grow up and have our own ideologies and thoughts, and the way we were raised to think about different things, especially like paranormal events, being psychic. So going in and I've worked with psychics, and I have raised their abilities, but by breaking down all of the barriers that might be possible to not allow themselves to open up for the frequencies that will allow us to be more psychic. I have also dealt with people that wanted to have more protection because they're more weirded out because of dealing with paranormal events, and I have gone in and basically the same thing, but have raised their thoughts and frequency for protection, and raise that up. And I've had that help people too. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, it does.
Okay.
It's fascinating to me because I think it's one way of crossing the boundaries of what we see and experience in our conscious waking state, and all of the other things that we could possibly have access to were we to, tap into other brain waves or states of consciousness. And it's just fascinating to know that
I think
one method of doing that.
Yeah, and I think we as people cause a lot of our own barriers, either through us wanting to, or things that have happened to us that have changed our way of thought. Fear, anxiety, whatever emotion is there. That all of that comes into play of how we are and how we perceive things. So once you start breaking those walls down, you actually become more aware of whatever you want to do with it, whether it's being, psychic abilities or performance issues or whatever. You have to basically just you fight yourself sometimes.
Well, you have to fight your own self-doubt.
Yeah,
you fight your own lack of
demons,
belief,
per se.
Lack of conviction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first started working with MUFON, this was decades ago. I actually ran an organization in northern San Diego. This was back in the 1980s, into the 90s. And we were just starting to get people approaching us with abduction stories. I mean, this was like at the very beginning of this whole phenomenon that then exploded with people coming forward and things in the media and books coming out. And I remember none of us knew what
I don't remember the name of the gentleman that was doing a lot of the hypnosis back then. Was it Bud somebody?
Bud Hopkins. I was going to say
Bud Hopkins,
Bud Hopkins, yeah. So, we didn't even know we kind of knew about him, but we didn't know what to do with these people. Yeah. And I remember Yvonne Smith lived in the area, and she had just started doing hypnotic regression. I mean, it was just the beginning of that coming into play, and how fascinating it was, because so many people that did not know each other and never met each other were telling her that they had the same experiences, but what really always struck me was that they were terrifying experiences for some people, but when they were taken out of hypnosis, they were able to function and not be sort of overwhelmed by the fear or the emotion. So I always thought that was really interesting.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised that once you release all of that anxiety and fear and things, how your life does change because of all of the things that were blocked that you wouldn't do. I mean, you were talking about the beginning of abductions, abduction hypnosis, stuff like that. What about Betty and Barney Hill when they placed them under hypnosis? Right. And when they started coming out with all of the things that happened to them, that was fascinating. That was like one of the first cases as well.
I know it was, and it was, you could feel them being traumatized and terrified. Oh yeah,
and the raw
they would
emotion.
Come out and they would be calm, and they would, it was just so weird. Like, wow, this really takes you back, not just to observe the experience, but you're actually back in the experience. You're
now, that
recreating it.
Yeah. That kind of is a good segue. We have another question in the chat room, and they were asking if you have ever had a hypnosis experience that went really bad.
Oh, okay. I guess that's for me.
Yeah, because I've never been to
Marie, have you?
Go for it. Not me.
Well, I always monitor for abnormal reactions, and that's usually people that are having, when they get too emotionally involved with what's going on, I usually try to pull them out of it. The way I usually use hypnosis is that I try to not have the person go through all of the trauma and fear and everything as what they had done, because they've already been through it. So I usually have them envision being in a movie theater and looking at what happened on a movie screen, so they could see it, but they're not feeling what happened. I mean, that's how I do it. Some folks seem to think that it's more therapeutic to go through the emotion, but if you're hypnotizing somebody that had been raped, do you want them to go through that again? I mean, that's a traumatic enough experience as itself. So I would rather have them, take all of that emotion out of it and just be able to concentrate on what we're looking for, so they don't have to deal with that again. Usually when I'm dealing with people that have traumatic events like that, they are also going through counseling, and I work with their counselor to and provide my information back to them, so we kind of go hand in hand and try to help the client that way. So the answer to your question is, I have had people go have an abnormal reaction, but I usually try to pull them out or try to take control of the situation by relaxing them to the point that we can continue.
All right. Hopefully that answered her question. I'm sure it did. So Marie.
And thank you for the question, by the way.
For the what?
I was saying thank you for the question.
Oh, absolutely. So before Pete took over the show,
I'm sorry.
I find it fascinating because, to me, I find it fascinating because it just makes me wonder, again, we spend so much time in particular brainwave states that either allow us to perceive other realities or don't. Yeah. And I thought how hypnosis in a weird way is kind of like time travel, because literally what you're doing is taking somebody back into the past to completely experience something again. I know it's all memory and it's, really accessing embedded memories, but it almost sounds like time travel. It's like
it kind of is.
Yeah, it's just
it kind of is. You're basically amplifying the memory and having have more control over what you're working with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, Pete, the person in the chat room said that yes, that did answer her question. So, and you do know I was just giving you a hard time, right?
Who? You were talking to me? I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Okay. All right.
You could tell we like each other.
It's the comedy hour.
We like to have fun and discuss
You
things.
You have to have fun. You got to laugh at things while you're trying to be serious.
I'm actually getting a little bit nervous as to why he is bringing his Great Dane Zeus to Jefferson in a week when I'm going to be there. He asked me to send him one of my shoes and said he needed to train his dog. And after I sent it, I was thinking, wait, what? So now I'm really kind of wondering.
Brian, by the way, I can't send that shit back.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's just a little suspicious.
Yeah, I think I can only send back those little silver holes that you put the ties through. I think that's all left.
Yeah, I may.
There's one spot that says Nike.
I may not be able to financially make that trip. I'm going to have to really check my bank account now.
Hey,
you
got all those books you're sending to me to bring up there. So does that mean I can start signing them?
Sure.
Okay.
Help yourself.
Okay.
John Hancock, you name it.
Hey, Marie, I wrote another couple of books. You want one?
Send me one, yeah.
Okay. I'll autograph them for you.
Wow, my wallet is feeling lighter already.
Yeah, it should be.
I have another question. I want to know if you can hypnotize children because their brains operate in alpha, don't they? Or they're in a different brain state most of the time.
I can. I haven't done it much, but what I usually do is I have a puppet that Yes, it is. I have a puppet that I use, and they concentrate on the puppet, and I just kind of go through my process with them through the puppet,
right?
And
that's cool.
It works pretty well. Yeah, it works pretty well. I mean, sometimes children can be a little bit spastic and stuff, so sometimes it's hit or miss. But I think I've done 4 children. I think about 50%. 2 of them worked well. 2 of them wanted to go out and play. So.
Oh. Yep.
Children.
I was
going to say children generally do want to do that. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the ones that I worked with that worked really well. They were having nightmares, like night terrors, and I had gone over to the house, and they wanted me to watch him sleep, and when he started having night terrors, I took him out of it, and then I brought him down and got him to rest and relax, and worked with him for a couple of weeks that way, and things worked out pretty well for him.
When I was young, I had nightmares every night. They were awful. I could have used that.
Yeah,
better than taking him to a psychiatrist where they get put on pills.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully, my daughter is actually she just got her degree in psychology, and she's not really one who wants to prescribe. She's not really
easy to prescribe pills and not work the issue. I mean, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of psychiatrists, not psychologists, that will do that just to try to, try to get the situation under hand. But I don't know. Good psychotherapy helps wonders too.
You kind of wonder why this psychiatrist is nodding out while you're talking to him, and at the end of the session just says, "Here's a pill." And by the way, it's $100 a half an hour. So. So Marie, we actually have a question for you in the chat room. It says, are there really good witches and bad witches? Like, do you ever look at somebody and go, oh no, I'm staying away from that person because she's not a nice witch?
Well, I will tell you this. Any real witch will not be a bad witch, and that is because one of the most basic beliefs is that that everything you do comes back to you. That there's that it's a natural law that what you put out comes back to you in return. So therefore, why it is kind of like do unto others. Why would you want to hurt anyone? So there are probably a lot of witches out there that do bad spells or are not really good people, but as far as I'm concerned, they're not real witches. Real witches will not cast a spell on you to get sick or die. They will not do anything to harm. So yeah, there are, sure, just like in any other area of human life, there are people that think that they can use these forces and work with this magic and do their spell casting with the law of attraction for evil, bad things, or to try to manipulate or hurt other people. And as far as I'm concerned, they're just jerks. I think they're not, because if you are a real witch, you follow the ethics and the moral codes of witches or Wiccans. And it is very much based on the golden rule that you do unto others as you would have done unto you, and that you don't ever put anything out into the world, into the universe, that you don't want to come back at you. And it'll come back at you 3 times with the effect and the power of what you put out. So, yeah, you'll probably hear people say, oh, I'm a witch, and I can put a spell on your ex to make him come back. That's just, to me, that's such a huge no-no, because it's not about manipulation and forcing people to do things or controlling or hurting people.
So I'm kind of curious, at the beginning of our current president's presidency, there was this mass gathering of witches. And I'm thinking to myself, because I mean, I've known a few witches as I was growing up, and they basically all said the same thing as you, is, you don't use it to harm because it will come back to you. So I was wondering, what could be the possible, outcome of all of these witches getting together to try and hurt this one person?
First of all, because I remember hearing about that and just thinking, that's the most stupid, idiotic thing I've ever heard. If these are witches, they should be ashamed. They'll pay the price. It'll come back to hurt them. When someone that doesn't like them does the same thing, and that's usually kind of how things work in life. But no, my first thought when I saw that was that these are not people who truly understand the ethics and the moral, basis and foundation for witchcraft or Wicca, and they're not following the code. They're just being judgmental, condemning people, and that goes against everything that you should be doing as a witch or a Wiccan or somebody that practices an earth tradition. I mean, even shamans know, and they're a very specialized type of earth magician, if you will, or healer. And even they know that if you're working with energy, the energy that you put forth is, if it's negative energy, it's eventually going to boomerang right back around you. Besides, it also doesn't make you a very good person if you're adding more negative energy and you're judging and condemning a human being just because you don't like them. So yeah, I thought that was the biggest joke, and I was so angry. And I know a lot of real witches were so upset because it was another stereotype, like another black mark, to put on witches who already have so many people think that they're like what you see in the Hollywood movies and TV shows.
Right.
So yeah, it did make a lot of real practitioners take pause, like, oh, no, don't do that, please. Not to mention that it didn't seem to work.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, we do have to take another quick break. But when we come back, we will continue along that line, and we actually have another question for you from the chat room when we get back. So we'll see everybody on the other side of the break.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
And you are back with the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. We've got about 15 more minutes, so there's still time to join the chat room at WBHM-DB.com. And if you have questions for our guest, you can call into area code 205-533-7982. We've been talking with Marie D. Jones, and Marie, when we left for the break, I had mentioned that there's another question for you in our chat room, and Sherry would like to know what your opinion on gypsies are, and can they give actual curses on people, or is that just movie drama?
No, I mean, I actually know a gypsy, a woman who's of a gypsy bloodline, and they're kind of like their own brand of witchcraft mixed in with a little bit of Santeria, a little bit of voodoo. But you can't just go say I'm a gypsy. You have to be born into a gypsy bloodline. There aren't a whole lot of them out there. And they probably do curse. That's, maybe they don't have the same moral and ethical code that witches and Wiccans operate by. But I don't know enough about their belief system to know how they kind of deal with that. Like, is it okay to put a black spell on somebody, or you spit on your neighbor's doorstep to curse them? Well, does that come back to you, or, I don't know what their beliefs are, but yeah, they're definitely out there. There aren't a lot of them. I know during World War II, the Nazis wiped out
thousands and thousands of them.
Yeah, but there are some here that have different unique bloodlines, European, Eastern European, and they have their own belief system that's quite unique.
So I'm curious on that thought line. Are gypsies considered witches?
No, they're completely. They could possibly share some of the same beliefs and practices. Like, I'm sure they may use herbs and a lot of symbolism and, candle magic or what have you, but I don't think they're, I think they're maybe related in some ways, but they're not the same thing.
So is gypsy magic more of a bloodline type of thing, or do you think it's based on the same type of?
So with witchcraft, there are what's called hereditary witches, where they come from a long line of family members who practice, and they hand the practice down through generations. And I think with gypsies, and again, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is very much familial that you are born into a gypsy bloodline or a family of gypsies, that it's not something you can say, oh, I'm sick of being a Buddhist. I think tomorrow I'm going to become a gypsy. I'm sure you could do it because nowadays anybody can be anything. But I think an authentic gypsy is someone that comes from a country where there were gypsies. Excuse me. And they may have a direct family lineage that goes back to the gypsies in that country. Seems like it's a tighter kind of unit than, a kind of spiritual system that anybody can join or anybody can be a part of.
Where anybody can basically become a witch with practice? Is that what I'm kind of gathering?
Yeah, if you're drawn to it, absolutely. Like I said, there are hereditary witches, but there are, yes, it's something that you can come to at any time in your life, young, old, male, female, and there's no test that you have to take. There's no bloodline that you have to belong to. However, there are a lot of different types of witchcraft that people may be drawn to. For example, if you're Italian, you might be drawn to the Italian practice. If you're Irish, there might be more of a Celtic feel to what you're drawn to. So some of it could have to do with your lineage, your heritage.
You were talking about the Celtic, I guess, branch, if you want to call it that, where the Druids used a lot of herbs, roots, plants, and things like that. If I remember correctly, they were the first ones to discover aspirin, and had people, chew on the leaves to ease pain.
Willow bark, yeah.
Right, and I'm wondering back then, with them using all of these roots and medicine, developing medicines from natural sources, do you think that's where Druid magic came from? And that's where, I shouldn't say came from, but people thought that they were practicing magic when in actuality they were just herbalists, great herbalists?
Well, Druids, they also use sound and vibration, different sound frequencies, which we now know that Stonehenge was actually a sound frequency amplifier that they would chant and do dance inside the stones, and it would amplify the sound of the chanting and put them into an altered state of consciousness, almost like a rave party. So they used a lot of different things. They were really in tune with the stars, the planets. Druids, I think, again, like gypsies, they're a whole separate thing. You could be a druid and not be a witch, or you could be both, but they are two different things. And not a lot of people are drawn to druidic practices because they're not of that heritage. So they may not feel any kind of sort of historical connection or pull.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just whatever floats your boat. I think sometimes people do reading or they research things and they find, oh my gosh, I'm so drawn to, Greek magic, but I'm not Greek. But you could have been in a past life. I mean, there could be a reason why you feel such a connection, and you'll know. And I think if you're doing something that doesn't feel right and you don't resonate with, you're not going to stick with it. It's not going to work well for you.
Yeah, I actually haven't done a whole lot of research into Druidism, but I've actually always been kind of drawn to that. And it turns out that I'm about 85% Irish, which may have something
Really?
to do with the fact that I've always kind of been drawn to the Celtic
Yeah, definitely.
symbolism.
No, Brian, that just makes you a leprechaun.
Oh, that's gonna be Lucky Charms.
The one
Marie
thing
got
I
a zip
can-
round too. That's a
Definitely. All
two-pointer.
the
The one thing I can tell you there, Pete, is I am definitely going to hit you with my shillelagh when I come out there.
your shillelagh.
And guess what? I'm going to take
Oh,
my
you're in
pot
for
of
it,
gold, empty it, and smack you upside the head with it.
As long as I can have the gold, I'm good.
Oh no, I'll be emptying the pot of gold. Trust me.
I'm so happy Marie got a dig on you too. That was a 2-point play.
Yeah, I'm feeling all ganged up on.
Oh.
I'm happy. I could die happy tonight.
That's funny.
You know what? I'm leaving.
Oh, do we got your feelings?
I'm sorry, Brian. I'm sorry.
Oh, you guys are mean. Mean.
Oh, we're sorry.
I have to hit you both with my shillelagh or something here.
Yeah. You can't get your foot that high anyway.
Yeah,
Better you hit me
probably
with
not.
a shillelagh than a ukulele.
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
what he means, Marie. That's probably what he means.
That was bad. That was bad.
So we only have a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you. You have one book that you wrote having to do with a super volcano, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I had to ask you about that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I early on when I was just started writing nonfiction, I wanted to write a book with my dad, and he had been working on a theory called the Toba catastrophe theory that posited that 75,000 years ago, approximately, there was a massive supervolcanic eruption in Sumatra that created what's called a population bottleneck, literally wiped out maybe 90% of all humans that were alive at the time. And everyone to date who is on the planet was then, became a descendant of the 10, 15, 20% of the survivors, and how there's genetic evidence for this. And it was really fascinating. So we got the deal to write the book, and we expanded on that. We wrote about the Toba catastrophe theory. We wrote about all supervolcanoes, what they are, where they are. And then we thought it would be really cool to write a fictional scenario of what it would be like if a supervolcano erupted. And instead of choosing typical Yellowstone, we chose Long Valley in California because Long Valley is as big, it's overdue, and it's also tectonically linked to the San Andreas Fault in a way that if there was a massive earthquake, it could possibly trigger a supervolcanic eruption. We thought,
did you say that Long Valley was as big as the volcano under Yellowstone?
It has the potential to be as big a super eruption. If Yellowstone were to erupt, the caldera is so large that the chance of the whole thing blowing, I mean, if it did, it would be bigger than anything, because I think it's like a mile long.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, they said that it could be a extinction level eruption.
Yeah, and actually what worried us more, though, about Long Valley is the fact that it's closer to urban centers like Los Angeles. And so there would be more, you sort of have a 500-mile radius where everything will just be gone. With Yellowstone, you're a little bit further out from major urban centers. However, it would still be big enough to wipe out quite a bit of the population in the United States. And then, as it turned into a nuclear winter for 6 years or so, it would take out a lot of other people too. But we chose Long Valley because there's more of a chance of it blowing because of its proximity to the San Andreas Fault, which is the big one is, waiting to happen. And because it's closer to bigger urban areas where there would be more people affected. So, yeah, and we were going to write another book. We were going to write a book on, my dad had a theory of microquakes and how they could lead to a megaquake. And he came down with ALS. It took them years to diagnose it because at the time there weren't very many people with ALS. And by the time they figured out what it was he was too far gone, and he wasn't able to speak or do anything. So we never got to write our second book.
Are you planning on it at any point?
No, I mean, I would not do that without my dad, because
Right.
what he did is he provided the solid scientific research, and I sort of put it into layman's terms. And I wrote a couple of chapters. I wrote the fictional scenario, but I also wrote about cellular memory, which was something I was studying at the time. Ancestral memory that is within our DNA, within our genetic code, and how we today could be feeling still the trauma of our distant ancestors who lived through supervolcanic eruptions, megaquakes, major disasters, and we're talking 75, 100,000 years ago. So
Right.
It was a really cool experience. Yeah.
That I can imagine. Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
when I saw that was one of the books you wrote, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have to check this out. Well, unfortunately,
Yeah, it's fascinating.
we are out of time. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. And again, we have so many questions that we wanted to ask that we just never got around to. But hopefully at some point,
after the new year, let's do a part 2.
Absolutely,
I would
love it.
I would love to do that, Marie. I would love to do that.
Absolutely, we will. Yeah, there'll be so much more to talk about. So, absolutely,
Although, Marie, just to be honest with you, I am going to get a mute switch for you just in case you decide to go after me again.
Well, what about freedom of
Oh, you
speech?
hurt
What
his
about
feelings,
my
Marie.
First Amendment rights. Are you so crazy like Facebook?
I would never.
That would be hysterical.
Anyway, Marie, again, thank you so much. We do appreciate it,
Thanks.
seriously.
And I'm so glad we finally got around to doing it. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
This is great, Marie. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
next week, I will be doing the show from very close to where Pete lives. I will be in a hotel in Fort Worth. But next week,
there will be a disturbance in the force because he and I will be in the same state.
And I will be in the wrong time zone. But anyway, so next week we have Shannon LeGros. Shannon, unfortunately, is another one who we've had technical difficulties 2 times that she's was supposed to be on. So hopefully that curse will not continue. But I am really looking forward to talking to Shannon about her research into Bigfoot, other cryptids, as well as her wildly popular podcast, Into the Fray. So until next week, please be safe. Please have a safe Halloween, and we will be back next week, and we hope you can join us.
And thank you from myself and Angie as well. And y'all have a great Halloween, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Talk next week. Bye.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.